So you've tried talking to your mom about getting help, and the answer is always the same: no. No caregiver, no help, no support. So if this is your situation, trust me, you're not alone. Welcome to inHom Senior Care. My name is Vitaly. I'm glad you're here. We've been helping families for over 20 years, not only with actual care, but helping navigate these conversations, which sometimes can be a bit challenging. Parents refusing help is actually one of the most common challenges that families face. I'd say again, more than 90% of the care recipients at the time when they are being engaged about having care brought into the home are not on board, and sometimes very significantly not on board, and for sure resist even against pressure from all of the kids sometimes. And so just want to help you to understand that this is not a unique situation. It's actually more of a norm. And so the goal here isn't to win an argument, but to gain cooperation, to get on the same page, to make sure that what it is that you want is really the same thing that they want and need, but how do you get there with that conversation? So number one is slow down the conversation. Okay, so in this series of videos that I'm doing, helping to explain how to start these conversations, how to keep them going, because it is going to be more than one conversation. Many families will actually push too hard, try to sort of like overwhelm and just get things in place or get things done. Instead of building trust and instead of gaining cooperation, they actually meet a lot more resistance because it triggers defensiveness, right? The aging person, your mom, your dad, can feel very overwhelmed and can feel very ganged up on and can feel their independence is being pulled away from them, and somebody else is ready to step in and take control and take care of things. The better approach is really think about this as many conversations. I've said this in one of the other videos, and most of our learning really occurs as repetition. So think about even being in school, how many times you have to do same problems over and over again, and you may feel like, man, why do I already know how to do that. Why do I have to do that again and again? Well, the point of that again and again process is that you are going to learn, and it's actually going to cement into your long-term memory. In this situation, the many conversations are, they're building trust, right, if they're done right, but they're also helping that person to start accept a new reality and become okay with that new reality, a reality in which they are going to potentially accept a little bit of help here and there and understand that that won't fully jeopardize their independence, right? Their independence can stay intact even if they give up some parts of it because they're at a point where they need some additional help. So, and then the main thing to remember is change happens gradually. They'll say, change is the only constant, right? Like you always have change. And change is difficult for most people to accept. But change, if it's done gradually, is much, much easier to accept versus some kind of very drastic change. So start with small support. That's number two. Start with small support. Instead of saying you need a lot of help, you need full-time help, you need a lot of care, statements that will likely be met with just a no, I'm done with this conversation, you need to leave, right? Talk about maybe specific things. And as I said in the last video, bring up the conversation about and say, what is hard for you now? What things that you used to do that used to be easy are more difficult? You could talk about, we could have somebody come and help some with the housekeeping. They can help you strip the bed and change your linens and do some of the laundry. Right? And imagine how helpful that'd be. What about we had somebody that could actually take you to appointments or to, get your nails, your hair done, right? Those kinds of things, especially here in Minnesota, we've got at least half of the year we're dealing with snow and ice. And so sometimes that is for sure something that older generation is not excited about, being out on the roads and driving. Well, that can be an end to say, well, at least we could have somebody that could take you to those appointments that are important to you, things that are part of your dignity and part of who you are. And we can have somebody that, you get to know and over time becomes a trusted friend that can help you with some of these things. Companionship is one of those things that is such a fundamental care that we provide, right? But it's in this early stage when you're having a conversation, it's very difficult to bring up conversation or to bring up companionship and to say, we can have somebody who can be a companion for you, because most of us feel that's a little bit weird. It's normal for us to have companionship with our friends, but like we're going to have a paid person that comes in to be my friend, to be my companion. Now, but in reality, when care starts and they get to know the caregiver, that is the part of the care that they cherish the most, right? Because it's that connection. We're all human beings and we crave connection. The older somebody gets, the less natural connections they have, right? A lot of their friends are passing away. Some have moved away to be closer to their families. And so that circle, that social circle of friends that all of us have, and some of us have more, some of us have less, but all of us have some. And as a person gets older, that circle just shrinks. And then family is a different part, right? Because every family is different. So some families are super close and they're naturally very connected. Others are not. And family has a certain obligatory feel to it. So when your daughter visits, that person, as much as they enjoy that, they may feel like, well, she has to visit more often because I need help. And so they may feel a little guilt around that, versus having a caregiver who has a very different relationship now with mom. And as a daughter, you can visit and not have to do the duties of a caregiver, but just be able to be there and just enjoy. So number 2 is start with that small support. Just talk about helping with a few things. Meal preparation is another one, right? Even with like 3 days a week of services, a lot of times we're preparing some kind of a larger meal that could be packaged up and reheated. So on the days that the services aren't in place, the person can have some of their favorite dishes. That's one of the beautiful things about home care, is that we can actually cook specifically to your liking, not serving you things that the cafeteria serves, but serving you things that are your favorite, your normal, your routine things that you would eat. So then step 3 is to focus on their goals. Again, goals sometimes sound weird. They sound like, what's my goal for this year? Think a goal of living here, living in my home, being independent, being able to go to church, being able to take care of my things. So don't think goal setting like we think of in young life. So think of it from that perspective. So instead of asking, do you need help, or saying you need help, what would make things easier for you? If we'd love to see you be able to age in place and stay in your home, what would make living here as you are easier for you? What would help you to stay in your home longer, right? Because we're all motivated by things, and trust me, that your aging loved one is motivated by staying in their home. Our home is very near and dear to us. We all enjoy that. And yes, some are better at realizing I'm struggling to maintain my home or keep up with my home, but many will minimize that aspect of it because they're afraid of having that independence and that comfort of home taken away from them. So instead of actually being honest about this, they're actually going to minimize and hide the fact that they're struggling. So your goal with this conversation is to actually engage with them and to get them to be honest with you, because they're not being threatened by your conversation and your tone. And so you can cooperatively come up with a plan that is actually going to help them. The reason this works, it puts them back in control and it aligns with their priorities. So instead of being focused on the negative, like you need help, I know that you can't do this anymore, or you're struggling with these things, it's talking about the goals and using the goals as a motivator to be able to say, how can we think of a way to actually allow you to remain and stay here and to do that safely and productively. Help or care or assistance becomes a tool for independence. So instead of being seen as coming in and taking over, removing independence, it's actually being used as a tool to promote and maintain independence. Number 4, use trusted voices. So one of the things that I've been really grateful for is the church that I'm a part of. We have a ministry called Encore Ministries. And part of that, it's basically a ministry focused on aging adults who are in their second half of life. And so part of that ministry is actually doing workshops every other month that are put on to help bring experts to help educate about all sorts of aging topics. Some of them are about housing, some are about our services, our type of services. Some of them are just about financial things and whatnot. But the goal with some of that is you're allowing a trusted voice to kind of enter the picture, and instead of you being the one trying to control or encourage or engage them in all of this, it's allowing others to speak into their lives. It's one of the most productive things. It's like when I had teenagers, it was amazing when one of my peers would have a conversation with my son, and he would receive that very differently than he would from me. Well, that's kind of cool. So doctors, pastors, friends and neighbors, maybe a hospital discharge planner, in other words, sometimes a professional, but other people that when you're involved in that mix and that coordination and helping them, to have other voices that can speak into the idea of getting help is a good thing, right? It's not something that we want to avoid. It's something we want to engage because it's going to help you stay where you're at. So when they're hearing that same message from trusted voices that are not just the daughter, not just the son, that tends to carry a lot of weight. So sometimes that message is much easier to accept if it doesn't come directly from a child. Let's just face it, and it can sometimes feel frustrating that that's how it is, but it's just how we all are, right? Like we can listen to someone and go, oh, that is a great idea. And then our loved one can be like, I told you that 4 times. Why is that a great idea? And you didn't think it was a great idea when I talked about it. Don't fight that. Just accept it and use that to say, like, we want you to be okay. And we want to be able to bring in what is needed for you to function independently where you're at. So step 5 is be patient and watch for safety. Again, a big theme of all these videos that I'm doing is the idea that this is going to be multiple conversations, which means that you have to be patient, that some of them are not going to be as productive as you'd like them to be. And then in the meantime, you're still monitoring and watching for their safety, making sure that they're okay. You still probably are over involved, but you're working towards a goal to where you're gaining their cooperation. Balance here. Patience matters a lot because you're building trust, but so does their safety, right? Because at some point, their safety may take a higher priority over just this, how long do we draw this out with these conversations? Examples where action, more drastic action may be needed would be like frequent falls, or maybe you're noticing medication mistakes. Maybe you're noticing even, worse signs like soiled clothes or just persons not changing. So that may be something where you need to maybe schedule a doctor's visit to maybe get some testing done just to kind of get into a little more. Maybe even unsafe driving. Maybe there's dents and scratches on the car that are unexplained. And so that becomes a concern. Like, not only are they maybe not safe for them, but are they potentially a risk for others when they're on the road? And so being aware of that. So respect independence, but don't ignore safety risks when you start to see them and when they start to become more apparent. If your parent's refusing help, be patient and know that you'll need to have more of these conversations, but it doesn't mean that the situation is hopeless. It doesn't mean that you're not getting through, right? Because even when they're not giving you the confirmation that you're making any progress in their mind, you're still planting seeds about the fact that care is not a bad thing. Having care can actually help them stay where they're at. And having the right care can actually be a really, really good thing once they're actually there and once they're doing that. So many families start exactly where you are, and many of them walk the same steps, and some of them are frustrating because sometimes it feels like you take 2 steps forward and you're taking a step back, or maybe you're taking 3 steps back and then you start over. We'd love to hear from you. We're in Burnsville, Minnesota. We'd love to engage with you to not only look at our services as a potential tool for you, but also just help you with this conversation. So I'd love to have comments from you. Was this helpful? What other topics would you like to hear? So share this, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.